I thought I would make a video on stacking photos in DeepSkyStacker. So let's get started. The first thing you want to do if you're just now starting is check your raw and fits settings. And they should look something like this here. Bilinear interpolation should be checked. I don't think you'd want to check any of these others, especially this one, because this will make your image a whole lot smaller. So no superpixels. Okay. And if you're using fits files, you want to make sure that this box is checked and you select the bare pattern that your sensor has. It's going to be RGB most of the time if you're using a ZWO camera or a QHY or any of those. The raw files use a bare pattern also, and it's RGB in your Nikon and Canon and Sony's. So anyway, just make sure that your raw files are looking just like this. Only thing checked is bilinear interpolation, and set the black point to 0. Seems to work. Fits files, monochrome, checked, and then RGB, so it's red, green, green, blue. Okay. Bilinear interpolation. Make sure you get this right. Okay. You can close that box out. Then you need to open your picture files. So I'm going to go ahead and open. In this case, these are all my light files. So I'm going to select all, open. I've already run these through, so they're going to have scores and things down here, so we won't pay any attention to this until we actually re-register the files. Normally all these fields over here are going to be blank, so we'll go ahead and load some. These are your light files, okay? These are the pictures that you actually took that have the image on them. Now you need to load your calibration frames. Hopefully you took all those, but the first one you want to load is dark frames, and we'll select all of these. Just hold the shift key, select the first one, and then hold the shift key. Open. And then your flat files. And these are here. Now these are ones that I used before, but they're at the same, everything's the same speed wise, so all of them. Whoops. Open those. And I use dark flat files as opposed to bias files, because on a CMOS camera that seems to actually work out better. So dark flat files, actually they're flat dark files, but that's just a different way to describe them. So what they are is they are like a bias file, but they're used to calibrate your flat frames. Okay, so these are set at the same time as your flat frames were, but they have the lens cap on, so they're dark files that are used to calibrate your flat frames. So I load those. Yeah, some people call them dark flats, some people call them flat darks, but they're actually flat darks. Okay, so they're dark files that are used to modify your flat files. And I don't use bias files. And if you do use bias files, which actually I think that's a throwback to the CCD cameras, those are just the fastest shutter speed that you have with the lens cap on, same ISO and all that. So you can still use those, but sometimes you're going to get some lines across your pictures and they're not going to work out as well. But whatever you like to use, if you want to use bias files, that's fine. But like I said, I use flat darks or dark flats, whichever way you want to call them. Okay, so we've got them all here. You'll notice that the lights have not been checked, okay? None of the light files have been checked. So if we just scroll down here, they start getting checked when they're at the calibration frames, darks, flats, flat darks. Okay, so what I normally do at this stage is check all, and I will go ahead and register the pictures. Okay, and in here I leave stack after registering unchecked, and that way I can look at my files and see which ones need to be stacked. So you can do that, or you could just guess at it and check register after stacking and put a percentage in there, but you really don't know what that percentage is. So I would rather look myself and use the best pictures possible. I mean, the more you stack, obviously, the more time you get is going to be better. But if you're stacking garbage, then you're going to end up with a garbage image. So you don't want to do that. So anyway, just register the images. Now you can look at these recommended settings, and it'll give you, for the amount of files that you put in there, it'll give you some recommendations of things that you can do. Now you could click on this and then you just screwed yourself. So you don't want to do that, because now you've got super pixel mode checked and this is not good. Okay, so you want to go back to bilinear debarring. So if you just mistakenly check this, it says you are processing short exposure and probably low signal to noise images. You can have all these different things that you can check, but remember the settings that you did over here and use bilinear debarring. That's what you want to do. And I say reset all white balance settings. So, but anyway, if it's green, that's what they're going to use. If it's blue, you have the option to choose that. Okay, and if you use Sigma clipping, if you have enough frames, it can go through and let's say you have an airplane or a meteor or something going through the file. It can actually take that meteor or airplane out of there if it has enough files to average out. So if there's enough frames, which 57 is plenty, it will average out little things that aren't supposed to be there. It kind of looks at them and says these are outliers and we'll just kick you out. So Sigma clipping combination method is good, or this adaptive weighted average combination method is good. But you know, like I said, if you've got some that have airplanes or but either one of these will be fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and say OK on those, the recommended settings. We're not going to worry about the stacking parameters right now. Another thing you want to do before you even start is click on this Advanced tab, and you can set this slider anywhere that you want. Let's go ahead and click Reduce Noise by using a median feeder a filter so that it doesn't mistake noise for stars. So leave that box checked or check it if it isn't checked. and compute number of stars detected. So click on that. It'll look at the frames and say, okay, there's 348. That's probably an okay number to go with. But let's just say you had it moved up to here. Now let's see what happens. 41 stars, that's not enough. So let's back her back down. 66 stars, that's not enough. 156, that's good. So at 6%, and this is going to be dependent on how well the stars are focused and how round the stars are and those kinds of things. Sometimes you may not even get 50 stars here if you've got, if the stars had some problems, you had maybe guiding problems or focus problems or whatever. It's okay. But I try to stay somewhere around 150 to 200. It'll speed up the processing a little bit too. So if you click on this, and let's say you're in a star field, like the right in the Milky Way, you might be showing 2, 3, 4,000 stars. 2 or 3,000 is going to slow this thing down a lot because it's going to have to try to match every single one of those stars. So you want to get it into a more manageable area. So 156 is good right here. So we'll go back to actions and we're going to register these, and it's going to give you one more chance to change things when I go ahead and say click. Do not stack them right off the bat. Okay. So it's going to run through its thing here, and I'll just speed this up. Okay, that's done now. Everything's registered. And now you can, let's stretch this up a little bit so we got some more room to look. Let's go up a little. Okay, you can see that each one of these has a score. Now, I had a little bit of trouble with guiding that night. There was like a 6-mile-an-hour breeze, and my big long telescope camera combination with the cables and things was getting a little bit affected. So these scores, normally you want them to be a little bit higher, but you got to take what you get. So in this case, this would be a pretty good frame normally. But as you scroll down, and you'll notice that you can order them any way you want. Like if I clicked here, now it's ordered by file number, okay? If I clicked here, well, that's the path, but if I clicked here, that's a file number, basically the same thing. So now if I click on score, that's the way I like to look at them. So I click on score, click it again because it went the opposite way that time. So if you click it, you should have your highest score here, and just scroll down till you start seeing, okay, we started at 1,000 and we're getting worse, getting worse, getting worse. And here is the end of the light frames right here. Now this one's showing me I've got a 0 for my score. This one has 0. This one has 3.8. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of everything that is under 332. I'm just gonna uncheck it. We'll uncheck all of those and take it all the way down to the bottom of the lights. Now, if you look here, I went from, what did I have, like 57 or something before? Now I'm down to 42 frames. That's okay. These frames would probably mess up your image worse than keeping them for the noise that they're going to remove. So, you can look at these. click on that one, and then the picture's going to show up there. Let's scroll back down here and get a little more room at the top. And okay, there are some controls here that you can use too. This will make it, I guess, darker. Let's pull it dark up a little bit. No, that goes the other way. I don't use this very often. I can kind of see in there. Let's take that back here, stretch it out a little. There you go. So you can kind of see what's going on here. Now, if you look at this, you can see these stars are trailing pretty bad. Look at that. Up in the left-hand corner, you have a little loop that shows you what you're looking at. That's not a star. That's like a kidney bean. So you probably wouldn't want to include that in your stack. So let's not do that. Let's just not do that. So I'm going to bring this up just a little bit. We can still see good enough there. That shows me what I need to see. So anyway, I've unchecked all these, and you can see the reason why they're in that category. Another kidney bean, or maybe somebody's swimming pool in their backyard, but that's definitely not a star. You don't want to include that in your stack. Here we go again. And see, these aren't quite as bad. And then sometimes they may have just jumped so far that the offset is going to be such that you're going to have an oddly stacked picture, and it's going to leave a big line or a frame of an image that's been shifted over in your stack, and you don't want that either. So there's several things that it's going to reject these for or give it a low score. So, but like I said, in this case, since I was not having great scores anyway, let's go back up to the 332 that I kept. Okay. Now see, that's still got some trailing in it, but it's not nearly as bad. This star's close to round. But again, I just did not have a good tracking night. See, we're getting a little bit better there. And it can kind of fix these up just a little bit with that Sigma clipping. So this one's rated the best. Okay, this was the best one out of the bunch as far as the program was concerned. And see, stars are nice and round. But you've kind of got to make a decision here, okay? And actually, it's maybe not a bad idea to even scroll through every single one of them. So go to the next one. Go to the next one. And this is a double star here, so don't let that confuse you. Let's go back, keep that highlighted. Okay. Scroll down, and every once in a while, if something really gets kicked or bumped, or see, now that one is one of those ones that's, oh, this was after the meridian flip. There's where the meridian flip took place. And if you're not familiar with a meridian flip, what happens is the line that divides east from west is the north-south line, which is the meridian. Okay, so once your telescope passes that point, you're guiding with your weight in the, it's going to be high on the left. So normally that's not a good situation to be in. So what you want to do at that point is a meridian flip, which means that you rotate the counterweight to the opposite side, and then you re-aim the telescope at your target where you were looking before. And what this DSS stacking software is going to do is look at that and go, okay, here's the star pattern. It's obviously after the meridian flip, so we'll flip these images for you. So it knows, unlike me when I first looked at that, I was like, whoa, this one really moved around, but it was after the meridian flip, so no big deal. And this will figure these things out, and it'll put them in the right state. So anyway, off on that ramble. Let's go back and just keep looking. And yeah, most of these are looking pretty good. Most of these are looking pretty good. Yeah, you can see they're stacked by score, so you might get one that's, and you can see you can see, okay, there's the flame nebula right there. So you know if it's before or after the flip. And like I said, they're stacked by score now, so they're going to go in and out. And make sure that's highlighted if you want to scroll down through them and keep looking. Again, that's the other side. Yeah, and most of these are pretty good. So they're basically okay. Not a bad idea to look at them, though. Now see, to me, that one looks kind of funky. But again, it got a pretty high score, so I'm assuming that the sigma clipping will take care of some of those stars. Yeah, and unless it's just like crazy double stars, yeah, these are really good on the focus here. Okay, we're still scrolling through. Boy, I wish I had a whole bunch just like this. Woo. But yeah, it was a pretty tricky night with that. Yeah, we're getting down to the bottom of the bucket now. Okay, and there's where we get uglier. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click on Stack Checked Pictures. Okay, so rather than just do a arbitrary percentage, and we're not sure why we chose that, we have a rough idea of what these frames look like. So, and again, it's kind of a toss-up. If you've got really, really good images, it's a breeze to stack everything. But sometimes you've got some clunkers in there, so you don't want to stack them. Okay, now this is telling us that we're going to have a total time of 2 hours and 6 minutes, which is not bad. It would have been better if I had the other 15 frames in there, but we'll settle for this. Okay, now we can look at our stacking parameters. Make sure standard mode is checked here. If you didn't dither, don't drizzle. No dither, no drizzle. If you dithered, you may end up using the drizzle 2 times or 3 times. Now what this is going to do is increase your resolution twice, which is going to give you like 4 times the data. So let's just say that your picture was 6,000 by 4,000 pixels. Okay, it's now going to be 12,000 by 8,000 pixels as far as the resolution goes. So that's a 4 times increase in the actual size of the image. Okay, you doubled the resolution left and right, and doubled the resolution up and down. So it's 4 times basically the data, and this is going to be good. But in order to use this, you have to dither. Dithering is just letting the guide scope shift the image randomly throughout the photo session. And if you didn't do that, don't drizzle. Okay. For the lights, I chose Kappa Sigma clipping, and it can help. If there's, like I said, any outliers, it removes them. Auto adaptive weighted average is another one I use, but if you really want to get into these, it would take way too long to try to explain all this stuff, and some of it I don't even know. So dark frames, median, kappa, sigma clipping, which is a good thing because we're using these to remove noise. So that is where you want to be there. Flats, same way. Alignment, I choose automatic, and I believe that's the default, but automatic is probably your best bet there. Intermediate files, intermediate and final image file format, TIFFs. I want this to be a TIFF when it's done. Okay, these are FITS files that I'm using right in here. You could be using Camera Raw or whatever, but you still want the intermediate and final image format to be TIFF. Okay, I don't do anything on this tab. I usually take care of things like this in PixInsight, so we won't worry about the hot pixels or any of that. We've got calibration files in there that should take care of those anyway. So, and then on our output, create an output file, which obviously we want to do. And output file name, it's going to be autosave.tiff by default. You could change that, I guess, if you wanted to, but there's no need. And it's going to put them in the file folder of the reference frame. So I'll show you the reference frame here in 1 second. Okay, I was just kind of reading through this. Sorry about the silence there. Okay, everything else looks good. So we say okay there. And the reference frame that they were talking about, let me kill this. Let's cancel this. The reference frame that they were talking about, you can select one or not select one. If you were going to select one, you would probably want to select one of the best frames that are in there. And I think that's a pretty good one right there. So what I can do is right click and say use as a reference frame. Okay, now let's go back to the stack check pictures again. See, nothing's happened here, so we're cool. And all these settings are good. Dark optimization, no, no, and yeah, I mean, I guess you could change these things around a little bit, but that's the one we're using right there. And we just went through all that, so let's go ahead and say okay there. But anyway, you could make some changes here if you wanted to, but I probably wouldn't. So let's go ahead and just say okay. And then it's going to go through and stack everything. So we'll be right back. Okay, that stacking's finished, and this is what you end up with. Now, if you look at the top here, it's going to tell you the location that this file is stored to. In my case, this is my mass file storage thing. And it tells you exactly where it's located. So you might want to make a note of this, or, you know, just take a look so it is where you think it is. Okay, this is where it puts it. Like that one box we were looking at earlier, it's wherever the reference frame was located. And If you don't check a reference frame, it's just going to put it in the lights folder that you got all the pictures from. So anyway, this is the stacked result. And from here, you can do whatever processing you do afterwards. And I already made a little video on that for Photoshop. I'm probably going to make one for PixInsight pretty soon. But anyway, this is what you end up with, and you can process it from here. So hopefully that helps.